I've been holding out on kind of getting into this video because I was kind of waiting on the weather. It's been super nice for November. I was kind of waiting for it to get a little cold out. This video is going to be about, we're going to touch on the whole heat treatment thing I blab about sometimes. I'll say, oh, I use a heat treatment to do this and that. Well, today I'm going to show you my secret. It's a big secret in the mask world. What heat treatment do I use? Is it a hair dryer? No. Is it sunlight? Warmth by laying it in the window and letting the sun beat down on that mask? No. Do I use hot water? Sometimes I do, but this is different. Well, then what is it? I'm going to show you my secret now. I'm ready to tell the world how I manipulate old masks and reshape them by warming them up. I'm going to show you my #1 tool. Are you ready? Here it is. Ye old fireplace. Yes. So, I'm not showing you the rest of my living room. It's just insanely messy. There's pinball machines everywhere because the basement is being worked on still. But I use my fireplace, and I have found this is my favorite way to manipulate masks to soften them up. Okay, so this #1, let me go in to say that this is not a foolproof thing. This is not a foolproof thing, okay? This is not like, here's what you do, this is how you do it. No, I'm not gonna just say that it's super easy and it works every time, because it doesn't. I'm just gonna show you what I do. Sometimes it works, sometimes it can make things worse. But sometimes it really does a great job, especially in the instance of that 66 Metaluna Mutant. Man, that thing really benefited from the fireplace trick, especially those round eyes. They were all deformed and hard as a rock, you know, and I did what I'm going to show you tonight. Oops. And man, I got them to be super round and just, you know, certain characters like monsters or aliens, there's features that everyone knows by seeing them in movies or on pictures all these years. And if one or two of those little features are off, it's really going to throw off the whole look of that mask, you know, like Frankenstein's eyes, you know, the bags under his eyes on the one mask I fixed, but the round eye sockets or the round eye holes on that Metaluna Mutant are like everything to that sculpt and that monster design. So if they're messed up over time and if they're deformed, if you can just at least bring them back even a little bit, it makes a huge difference on the overall look of that mask. So I'm going to show you tonight, okay? There's no guarantees with this. And I'm going to tell you this right now. If you plan on messing around with heat or hot water on old masks, okay? And if it's an old late 60s or early 70s clay tex mixture, meaning clay latex mixture, remember that? You mask collectors know what I'm talking about. There was an old mixture where they put clay in the latex. Those become super brittle during these processes. Watch out. Do not force anything, no matter how. If you feel it getting softer, don't say, you know, I'm going to force it now. You may be sorry, because you're going to start seeing little tiny spider cracks appearing. That clay tex, it sucks, man. That stuff is really tough to get to come back. So let's see what we can do. First, #1, start the fire. I'm not going to make a giant fire. Okay, there's just some small kindling underneath a few little logs here. I'm not going to This ain't gonna be a video on how to make a fire, but number one, I'm gonna start the fire, so hang on. Hey, what I like to do is I'll get the fire going. I'll let it burn for a while, okay? I don't want flames. I don't want a big roaring fire. Ah! I don't want a roaring crazy fire. I want warm coals, and I want to put my hand here and just feel the warmth and feel the heat, okay? You're not looking for big flames licking up like mad, you know? You don't need a giant fire. You just need that nice, you know, bed of coals down there. So we're gonna let this burn for a little while and come back to it. Right? Ready? All right, so let me get closer here. Like I said, there's no guarantees that anything's gonna happen with this. I'm gonna try. There's a nice, there's coals here, basically. You know, there's a hot log. There's not a bunch of flames. You can take your hand, obviously, and hold it here, you know. Very, very hot there, where I have to pull it, you know, I gotta pull my hand away. It's just so hot there. I don't want to put the mask there. If I have my hand out here, it's definitely warm enough to eventually make that mask soften up, okay? If I find a nice spot in between where I kind of can keep my hand there and it's not gonna be so uncomfortable where I'm like, oh my God, it's burning my hands. I don't want to have my hand here. No, I can keep it here for quite a while. Like, it feels good, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of the spot where I'm gonna put this mask, okay? Between there and a little bit back. In this nice, where I can feel the warmth right here. I can really feel it, you know? To accelerate things, you can go a little closer, obviously. If you want to soften things up faster, I don't recommend it. You know, you'll just hold there for a while. Say we were working on the face itself, like the face part, or the neck of the mask. That is where you'll be able to hold it there for like try it for like 3 minutes, okay? You'll be able to tell if it's starting to get pliable again, okay? If it's not working, keep it there longer. If it's 10 minutes and there's still no change, the mask really isn't hot, then you're not close enough, okay? You should be able to get to a point where even a hard rubber mask is going to soften up in that heat, okay? It's just kind of like trial and error, you know? Get a real cheap mask that's kind of ruined if you can find one. Something that's hardened, you know, something from the 60s or 70s that's just, you know, totally ruined, where you're not going to be able to fix it. It's cracked beyond repair. And practice with your heat, you know, practice keeping it at certain distances, you know. Now that the flames kicked up there, I can feel it a little warmer. It just got a little hotter where I'm sitting. So, all right, enough talking. It's gonna be very hard for me to hold the mask and camera at the same time. I'm gonna kind of show you though for a few minutes. Some people are gonna think I'm totally insane for doing this, but hey, it's worked, okay? So what I'm gonna do with the Cousin Erie, I'm gonna take half of his face and shield it with a t-shirt. The other half, I'm gonna hold at a distance towards those hot coals. This may sound insane, but I want to try and soften up this area, his temple area, okay? And I'm gonna try to, from the inside out, make this hard indentation, see that? Come out, okay? It's sunken in with gravity. And the features of a Cousin Erie are much wider than he's looking. And I'm not gonna force it. The minute you start forcing it, you're gonna get cracks. I wanna wait till it softens up enough to just slowly move it, okay? And if it doesn't work, we're gonna stop. I covered up most of the mask. See that? That's going to shield a lot of heat from the rest of his face. Okay? Make sure your screens are closed. And I'm going to hold this sucker a good 10 to 12 inches from those coals. My arm is here, so I'm not getting burned. It is warm though. It's very warm. Obviously, it's a fire. I'm going to try to soften up that temple area. All right, I've got my knuckles underneath that temple area, and I'm heating it up from the outside, obviously. And I'm letting the weight of the mask do the pushing on my hand inside. So the weight of the mask is pushing on my knuckles, and I'm hoping to bulge out that side of his temple area because it was sunken in way too much. I got the flames going a little high. I put a little piece of wood in there, so I'm kind of waiting until that dies down. But even if we just get his features a little wider, and it will naturally move on its own without me pushing it, that's what you want. You know, we'll get his shape looking a little better, like the Cousin Erie he's supposed to look like. I think it's actually working. So you see this side of his face, how indented it is on that temple from just being sunken in over time? I've been heating up his other side, covering his face with a t-shirt, letting my knuckles inside, letting the mask rest on it, and it seems to be pushing it out. You see that? That looks nothing like that side. See that? This side was pretty bad. It has definite improvement. Holy cow. That is great freaking news. And again, I'm letting it sit for a minute before I go back in there. I'm going to do it again. I want the mask to do the work. The moment you start pushing on these with your fingers, trying to push them in place, you're going to be sorry. You're going to start getting stress cracks that you don't want. We don't want to ruin this natural finish on this mask. It's everything. But that top forehead definitely appears to be a little puffier than it used to be. And luckily I have really good photos of this mask to tell me that, which I'm going to check soon just to be sure before I keep putting heat to it. I'm only going to do this a few times. I'm not going to keep doing this for hours. I'm just doing it. My hand is right behind there. And I'm going to keep working on that temple area. Okay? Man, if this is doing what I think it's doing, this is a wonderful thing. All right, back to the fire. All right, guys. So the lips, past the tooth going back, it was really sunken in, like he was really puckering up a kiss. Like his lips got real skinny in the front, if you know what I mean. Like this little area was like really protruding out because it was sunken in really bad here on the sides of his lips. I heated up the side of his face here, and I got my thumb underneath where the back of the lips meet. My fist is in his cheek, and my fingers are extending up by his temple. Heated up the whole area, and I'm trying to get all of that to slowly push outwards and up, okay? It's so hard to show you inside, but a lot of the mask lost its puffy, fat face because of gravity. So I'm trying to at least suck it out, you know, somewhat, to get this dude's fat face back, his features that make him really look like an Erie back. We'll start looking at photos and stuff in a little while and comparing to see if this is actually working. I think it is. I can tell it's been moving. It's a very, very, very careful process. Like I said, I'm letting the mask do the work. I'm not pushing with my hands. I'm letting it heat up enough where it'll start moving on its own. So I may try to heat up this area one more time here and get that part of his jaw to pop out more down there. See how it is sunken in still? I want that part to puff out more. I've been covering most of his face with a t-shirt to block excessive heat from his nose. It's such a beautiful looking nose and everything else. Top of the forehead, I may heat up and push that outward. You know, it's sunken in. See that? Many areas of this mask need attention, and this is a very, very slow process. You cannot make this go any quicker. I'm being so careful underneath that nose. There's a tiny little split area. See that? I do not want to make that any worse there. Being so careful with that. Once you start, if you start pushing all this with your hands, it's gonna go, and then you'll go.
Fudge.
What did you say? That's what I thought you said.
All right. This is video, so it may be hard to tell, but me just looking at him in this kitchen, I'm gonna fluff his hair up carefully. Those big indentations at the top temple area. Look at that, how puffed out and more normal looking they've gotten. Okay? That has seriously helped the features of this Cousin Erie. And his actual forehead, I got it to come up a little bit more. I may work on it one more time, just trying to get it a little more flatter across the forehead. But this is huge. That was so sunken in. I stuffed it pretty good with some plastic to keep it kind of, you know, puffy up there so it doesn't sink back in, because it's a little pliable right now, believe it or not. It's from being warmed up. My main areas I want to focus on now are going to be this cheek here and maybe a little bit here. I want to be able to take this cheek and bring it out, because that is what's going to make him really come back to his original look. You know, most people would never know what this thing should look like, but we've got beautiful master copies here. I think they're from the master, and they're so different looking. He just has these full features that this original copy is missing because of gravity over the years, you know. We've got the side of the face out here, this side of the face out. We're going to work more on the temples, a little bit though, slowly, but man, it is truly making a difference. And I can definitely tell. We'll look at photos that we'll compare later, and that's when you're really going to see what I'm talking about. Hard to tell probably in video, but this whole side of the face is puffed out now. The temples are much more bulged out, especially this left or this other side of the cheeks. I'm just going to concentrate on this side here. This sunken in part of his lip it's kind of pushed in there, just from forming that way over the years. I'm going to wrap him up in the t-shirt, protecting all these areas, because some of them are still a little pliable from the heat, like I was saying, but he's hardening again. And I'm going to concentrate just on this area, and with the back of my fingers, I'm going to let gravity do the work, and hopefully that mask will let this part pop out a little bit, and we'll let him cool and get a good look at him, and we may be done. You know, thank God there's been no issues with screwing this mask up during this heat process. Look how much wider he's looking now. Do you see that? Huge difference. I'll explain more later, but oh my God, it's looking night and day. Wow. Okay. This, just by looking at it without comparison photos, based on me taking it out of the case tonight, taking it upstairs, and doing the process, it is way better than from what I started out with. So what the bummer of the process is, I can't sit there holding the camera in one hand and then manipulating the mask in the other. I needed both hands for what I was doing. I'll try to explain a little more in detail with what I was doing the whole time I was heating this up. So like I said, I didn't want to get the entire mask hot sometimes, so I would really shade a big portion of it with a t-shirt, and that's enough coverage to really keep a lot of the heat off, directly off of the latex rubber. And if you want to just concentrate on an area here or here, you know, you just wrap the rest in that shirt and it works good. So what I was doing was holding it maybe 10 inches or so from the warm coals of that fire, And, my hand's there the whole time. My arm is there the whole time. It's not like I'm getting scorched. I can tolerate it, but it is hot on my skin. And at times I would touch the latex. I'd feel it getting warmer and warmer. I would then take the mask away from the fire, having my knuckles kind of like inside areas of the mask. And I would let the weight of the mask pull its sections out. Okay, the gravity. I wouldn't physically take my fingers and go and move those areas out trying to form him better. I just let the weight of the mask do its thing. If it wasn't moving too much, I'd get it hotter. And I definitely started to feel areas being pliable and moving, So just by looking at this thing without showing you the photos yet, I'm going to do before and after pictures. I've got pictures of this thing from weeks ago. This whole area here, all the cheeks, the temples, huge difference from what I started out with. Even the sides of the mouth. Again, you're not going to get these things perfect. The farther you go with manipulating these with heat, the more risk you're taking at effing something up, okay? I got this thing weighting down here so it doesn't fall. Luckily, I didn't have any issues with this sucker doing the manipulation tonight. I've had masks where I'll start pushing that with my fingers, and before you know it, you'll start to see stress cracks forming, and like I said, it's mostly the old Claytex masks. This is a 1975. It could be Claytex, but it's on the thinner side. It's not the thick, like that would be nearly impossible. Those apes, any type of heat, hot water, you're going to get crazing and cracking and, oh my God. Avoid doing anything with these. Unless your name's Aaron Brooks. He does a good job doing the apes and fixing them up. But my God, that type of mask, not good for this treatment. Back to the Erie. I pushed out the corners of his mouth. I pushed out his forehead. It was sunken in more. His temples, his cheeks. Okay. Looking straight on now, he's got that fatter face. If you look up there, where's a good one? Here we go. There's a great cousin Erie right there. I'm not going to be able to get the exact features that thing has coming out of the mold, foam filled in the mold, beautifully. I'm not a miracle worker, but man, I did a great job. Like getting just what I was trying to explain earlier is he has that fatter appearance now. He's got the fatter head going. The cheeks are bulging again here. Here you have a little bit of indentation. Right there, it's almost normal, okay? Forehead under this cool hair. Let's see here. A little more indented on mine. But the good thing is I can go back up there and give it another shot, okay? I only go so far, and then I've learned to just walk away, let them cool down, assess everything. Don't push it to the max the first time. You can always reheat parts of it, all right? And you may find when doing this, some masks will stay soft. It's weird. They won't all start getting hardened again. This one kind of started hardening again, but some areas are still soft. Like I didn't want to just leave this thing hot and go back and forth while parts of it are still warm. I want it to cool and stay in its shape before I go back. Like I'm going to go back and do the forehead and this temple once again. And by looking at his nose, I may try to do the bridge of the nose, may try to bulge it out slightly, okay? It's never going to look like this one. Never. I'm not, like I said, that's not my goal. I cannot make it perfect. But damn, this is a huge, huge improvement from what it was hours ago. It looked like a cracked out cousin Erie, like real skinny in areas, just like he was on a major diet. Like he lost 85 pounds or something. And his face was really sunken in areas. But I was very nervous going into this because this is an unbelievably rare mask. It came from my friend. There's an amazing story behind this mask. And if I screwed this thing up, I would just be sick to my stomach. You know what I mean? So it's looking at his features, don't let the eyes throw you off. The eyes and the coloring of the paint jobs. Just look at the shapes, okay? Look at the shapes of his cheeks, the shapes of his temples, you know, like study that. Don't study the colors of the eyes or the shading. Like that's going to throw you off. You could see though how the noses are different. See how this is a wider nose and his is a little skinnier? Over time, this was on a wig head. Thank God it came off. This whole area here, okay, sank in with gravity. Like this all starts to go like this. You know what I mean? It all starts, it doesn't make that noise, but it all starts to just slowly do its thing, you know? And that's why we tell you guys who are new in this hobby, stuff your masks with plastic bags as good as you can. Stuff them good. If they're not foam filled, like this dude's foam filled, every crevice of that dude is solid with foam. He ain't gonna sink in ever. Take your plastic grocery bags and stuff it up in the nose, up in the cheeks, in the ears, you know, and their horns. Put stuffing up in horns, everything possible on these masks. Stuff them so they feel like a nice solid thing in your hand, you know, like don't just put a few bags in there underneath here and the rest is floppy. Stuff those suckers, man. And you will avoid the gravity effect. You know, you'll really cut that down. If you're going to keep these masks for 20 years, 30 years, take the time to do this right, okay? And you'll be a lot happier someday when all your masks don't, you know, wither away and sink in and melt and all that. So lifting up his hair, look at it. I'm right in the light, so I'm sorry for the shadows, but I mean, what a difference. I'm going to show you the before and afters, and you'll see what I mean. Just being able to manipulate a temple to come out, you know, 10%, 15% out. I'm saying percentages. I don't know why, but just a little bit here and there on all these little sections are going to seriously alter the features of that face and bring it back to where it should be. So I hope what I'm telling you makes sense. The fireplace trick, I guess I invented it. I've never seen anybody else do it. I've seen hair dryers. I've done things in hot water. But I've heard in the past that hair dryers can dry the latex out. Like if you keep putting the hot air and the movement of the air, okay? That's the big difference between the fireplace and a hair dryer. Hair dryer, you're blowing air on your mask. And in my opinion, that could seriously dry out the latex fast. I once had some masks near a heat register in a different room of this house. And just that register blowing on them for maybe 3 months, 3 or 4 months, they were like Swiss frickin' cheese, falling apart. I go, what the hell happened? And I figured out it was that air movement. The movement of air hitting that latex rubber just destroyed it. I used to use hair dryers on my masks. I no longer do that. With the fireplace, it's a beautiful regulated heat. It's that wall of heat. It's nice and even. You're not blasting your mask with air, you know, and it's, I don't know. You be the judge. Do what you want. But I'm telling you, I love this method. And if you don't have a fireplace, you know, get a bucket with make some coals in a bucket, some Kingsford briquettes. Try anything. Get a metal bucket on the ground, sit outside in your driveway. Don't do it when it's freezing outside. It's going to fight the process. But, you know, Don't do it in your house either, kids. Do not put fires in your house. Stop. All right. But if you don't have a fireplace, try that. Make a little fire in a metal bucket and just have those hot coals, like, you know, briquettes, like you'd buy for your Weber grill. And you don't hold it over the top of don't hold it over the top of those coals. Hold it to the side. Make a mound and hold it to the side so the heat's coming towards your mask. If you put it over the top, you're going to cook your mask and it's going to start dripping latex. It's going to get so hot. And then you're going to come back and go, what the hell, Rudy? And I'm going to say, you did it wrong. First of all, I don't advise doing this at all, okay? Like, if you guys are novices at working on masks, I'm not the mask doctor, all right? Kelly Mann's the mask doctor. I'm not some professional mask restorer, but I've done some pretty damn awesome jobs on restoration work down here. Mainly this thing, man, those circles were like squared. And through the same fireplace process, man, I made them nice and round. And it works. I'm telling you, it works. And Cousin Erie here is proof. And especially when I show you the before and afters. All right? So, maybe before the video is finished, I'm going to go back up there. He's cooled down now. All right? I took him outside. It's nice and cool out tonight. I took him on the porch, took some photos of him, let him cool down outside. I'm going to wrap him again and then concentrate on the top of his head here. Getting this to bulge out a little more in all three directions. Maybe the nose. We will see. It's not the end of the world. Also, as I was doing this, the cheeks were actually moving in and out. Like I could sit there and move them slightly, okay? As I got them in place, I started stuffing them nice and tight underneath so they wouldn't go and sink back in. I stuffed them with, you know, foam and material, some velvet, different things to keep them bulged out until it cooled, all right? Like, don't do it. Have your hand in there, let the gravity do its thing, get the shape looking better, and then just let it go. That thing could easily just move back in place, you know what I mean, while it's cooling. Try to carefully stuff some things in there or keep your hand in there for a long time. Go outside, cool the thing off, you know what I mean? This is a total trial and error, do this as you go, like process. There's no great step-by-step. There's only advice I can give you, okay? So I hope this will help you guys someday if you're going to tackle something like this. The way this mask is designed, there's a hole here, and one here. There's an attachment here behind the tooth. The rubber, it's one piece. It's one piece there, and I think it may be together there. Well, no, it should be open there, but I'm not even... What I'm trying to say is, if you just heated this sucker up and start pushing with your fingers inside and not letting the mask do its job, like let the mask form over your hand while it's warm, all that's going to go crack and his mouth will go, and you're going to have big splits here and you're going to freaking cry. Then you'll have to try to glue them back together, you know. Be very careful, especially when there's very small contact points here where this is together, you know what I mean? It's not like one little hole for breathing. It's an intricate, you know, cutout. There's also holes in the nose. There's a tiny little issue there. See that? So I am going to, from the back, put a little dab of some type of glue behind there, and maybe a thin strip of black Gorilla Tape up and down, you know, to really give it strength so that will never separate. This is going to be foam filled. I'm going to carefully put black velvet or felt behind the holes, even behind the eyes again, in case there's any little spots for leakage. And I'm going to seal off the holes with black felt, and then slowly get some some foam in those areas and make it nice and solid and strong. That's a whole nother story. But had to come down here and talk about had to come down, talk about the progress, and show you that it really does work. The fireplace trick, in my opinion, is the best. If you're gonna mess with heat and old latex, that was a hardened mask, okay? It was a little pliable on the back, but man, it's aged. It's from 1975, all right? Do you know how long ago that was? It's insane. I just want to show you it can be done, and be very careful out there. If you have something like this, where there's a handful of them known, literal, like 4 or 5 copies I've ever seen, and you're unsure, then don't do it. Contact me or someone like me and see if I can help you. I don't want to mess with anything out there unless it's something like this that is going to be really rare and needs to be saved or preserved. I don't want to be bombarded with a bunch of normal masks, you know, from the 90s or the early 2000s. I don't want any part of that. I just, you know, if it's something like this from the 60s or 70s, maybe the 80s, that needs some serious help, I can give you some direction or maybe even help you. But that, hey, what are you doing? Yeah, you. All right, guys, I'm gonna go try one more time on that forehead. And like I said, I hope this opens your eyes a little bit with heat processes. And that's my secret, my fireplace. All right, I'll see you next time.